Before Nightmare became an orphan, she used to live in this village where there was numbers of hedgehogs. It was called Hedgehog Village, but the main name of the Hedgehog Village was Sonic Village. The village was filled with hedgehogs. They was all living a happy life. A life where there was no worry, no concern, no fear. But one thing that has caused them to flee and run and go into hiding was their obsessions of the Chaos Emeralds. Once they have discovered them with the echidnas, they see what the Chaos Emeralds can do for them, so they wanted to get their hands on the Chaos Emeralds. As they had grabbed the Chaos Emeralds after discovering its true power, the echidnas and the hedgehogs were at war. A blue hedgehog was carrying another blue hedgehog out of the village for safety. And as they was running, and all the hedgehogs was running to get away from the echidnas, as the fight was proceeding forth, it was an epic battle. The hedgehogs was fighting back. It was a very crucial and brutal battle. And as the other blue hedgehog carried the other blue hedgehog, the orphan blue hedgehog, he flee by using his speed, dashing through the forest and the wilderness. And he saw an owl nest. And he left the blue hedgehog with her. But she didn't wonder, she didn't ask. But he said, "Here, take this emerald, guard it with your life." And he said, "Goodbye, my son. I'll see you later, Sonic." As he fled and left, Sonic was all alone. But it wasn't actually alone. He had a new caregiver to take care of him. As Nightmare was also fleeing from the scene as the war was taking place, her two parents, the two other hedgehogs, and her mother have brought her into the village where there are humans. And she told Nightmare to stay here. You'll be safe. And every time her and Nightmare hug each other for affectionate, their fur glows golden. Nightmare was taught how to defend herself. She was alone for a little while until one of the villagers saw her and carried her and took care of her. As they have loved her and took care of her like she was their own, her fur began to glow golden. And they discovered something amazing, that they became rich. And once they have became rich, they hid her powers for a while, a good long while. No one knew at the time that she can make them rich. Until then, when one of the villagers saw that whenever she glows, they would begin to speculate of how is this possible. And then they realized that that's how one of the villagers became filthy rich. And once the villagers realized that she can make them rich, they hunted her down. Those who were close to her told her to flee the scene, run for her life. She didn't even look back as she fled the scene in terror. But yet, as she escaped it by camouflaging, she was heartbroken and sad. And she stayed away from the village for a while. As years passed by, she always visited the village by camouflaging herself. But she always come into the village to check in those who is close to her to see how they're doing. And they noticed that sometimes they didn't notice that she was there. And sometimes they do. Because they started to realize that there was always these purple auras that glow like vines, and everything began to glow all around them. And they realized where it was coming from. And once they realized where it was coming from, they was filled with joy. They thought that nightmare was lost forever, to their reality that she wasn't. They hugged each other so deeply, but they told Nightmare, "You shouldn't be here. You need to get away from here. It's not safe. The villagers are still thinking that you're out there. Some of them don't know that you exist. They think you're a myth. They think you're made up." But to keep herself safe and her loved ones, she did as what they say. And she left. And she camouflaged it away. As years passed by, cities began to build. Worlds began to change. Nightmare watched it all. And then, suddenly, she see this boy scrolling past down the street by himself. Then suddenly, other kids was chasing after him, bullying him. Nightmare dashed in. She scared them off with a very new ability that she discovered. And as they fled the scene in terror after seeing what she did, the boy that was getting bullied said, "Please don't hurt me." Nightmare said, "Don't worry. I'm not here to hurt you." And he said, "Thanks for saving me. That was a close one. I really appreciate your help. Hey, how about you come with me?" And Nightmare said, "I couldn't." And he said, "Well, there at least something I can do for you." And he said, "Please." She had to think about it. But eventually, she went along with him. And he said, "Hi, my name is Chris." She said, "Nice to meet you, Chris. My name is Nightmare." And he said, "Where you come from?" She said, "It's a long story. There are some things I cannot discuss. I'm sorry, Chris." And he said, "No problem." As he reached his way towards his house, and as she had begun to depart from him, he said, "Wait, where are you going?" She said, "Somewhere." And he said, "Will I see you again?" She said, "Maybe." As she camouflaged away before Chris' very eyes, as he looked surprised. Next thing you know, as Chris closed his door after being shocked of what he just saw, he wanted to tell his friends about it, but he wouldn't think they would ever believe him if he told them. So he kept it to himself. As he kept it to himself, Nightmare climbed up in the trees on a rooftop, right where Chris's balcony is at. She climbed on the trees above it, and she stayed there, believing that it is her safe place. For some strange reason, she felt like she could trust Chris. But She didn't jump right into it. She didn't let her feelings get the best of her. So she stayed up in the trees. And she could see Chris through the room of the balcony as he sit on the sofa. And he fell asleep. She watched him from a distance as night began to take its place outside. Her eyes began to glow through the night. Eerily as it looks, but yet she is friendly. She has been watching Chris, and she has been paying attention to his surroundings. Every now and then, the whole area where he is at began to glow. Purple orbs, light pinkish purple orbs began to glow, alerting those who are close to her that she is near. But the next day, Chris got up. He didn't know that he overslept on the couch, but he looked out the window and he felt that someone was watching him, but he couldn't see them. He couldn't see who it was. So he proceeded on about his day. After he proceeded on about his day, Nightmare came out of her camouflage mode and looked at Chris as he walked away. But stayed back, and she went back into camouflage. And then suddenly, she noticed something. There was another hedgehog that was there. Not just one, but two. And then the next thing you know, there was another. But realizing that Chris had friends that was almost as similar to her, or actually is similar to her, she went away and moved on for a little while. And then she met a friend. He was a captain, or so she's assumed, of how much respect that people had for him. He saw her. She stuttered a little. He said, no, come here. What is your name? She said, Nightmare. And he said, hello, Nightmare. I'm Dreadlock. As he approached her with caution, and as she was concerned and curious of what he was doing, as he got close to her, he petted her. She felt comfort as he took her in. And he said, how about you would like to come along with me? Nightmare said, to where? He said, to outer space, of course. She obliged, as she assumed that she finally found someone that she can actually get close to. But overall, she was a little bit concerned at the same time. Hey squad, I'm gonna stop right here. Tell me guys what you think of this storytelling that I'm telling you. Tell me, what do you think of it? I hope that you like it. All right, squad. Bye.